Lows.
Well, the Maryland Terrapins supplied the fireworks in Game 1. A look at the Magic Kingdom and hoping for more of the same. Great battle in the backcourt. Good buddies. Jeremy Pargo for Gonzaga going up against Byron Eaton and the Oklahoma State Cowboys. The Zags and the boys coming your way next. And here from the Magic Kingdom, the Milk House, Disney's Wide World of Sports complex in Lake Buena Vista, Florida. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. It's Oklahoma State against number 10 Gonzaga, the Old Spice Classic, part of Feast Week, presented by Lowe's. Take a look at the bracket so far in our tourney. Earlier today, Tennessee thumping Siena, Georgetown in a squeaker, getting past Wichita State. Our first surprise as Maryland beats the number 6 team in the land, the Michigan State Spartans. And folks, thanks for joining us here. John Shambi, Fran Fraschilla, Andy Katz will join us coming up. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. And, well, if you're looking for something to key on in this game, the pace, because it should be up and down.
Well, Travis Ford has come to Stillwater, and they want to run, and they will run tonight. Zags always love to run, so this should be fun.
Take a look at our Star Watch for tonight's game. Byron Eaton, the guy that makes it go.
Season of redemption for both Byron Eaton, who's going to fit nicely in his style, and Josh Heitfeld, Mark Few, hoping his fifth-year senior can stay healthy and put up big numbers.
And lineups for the Cowboys. Eaton, Harris, and Manello, the 3-guard attack, actually a 4-guard attack, because James Anderson as well. And then Ibrahima Thomas will start. Meanwhile, from Mark Few, Pargo, Bolden, Downs, Heitfeld, and Day as we are set to go. And Thomas and Heitfeld jump it up. Heitfeld wins it, and it's Gonzaga basketball.
Zags have 5 offensive weapons in their starting lineup, so they can go a lot of different ways early.
I mean, so many different guys get attention for Gonzaga. You got Pargo as a player of the year in the conference. Downs, who can really shoot it, but this guy with the ball, Matt Bolden, was their leading scorer a season ago.
But I think with a lineup like Oklahoma State puts on the floor, you'd be best to go inside early, see if you could establish Heitfeld at 260 pounds. You'll see a lot of dribble penetration and pick and roll basketball from this 4-guard lineup.
Anderson in and out, and Gonzaga basketball up ahead. Downs, and the up and under move won't work. Harris pushing ahead. Eaton triggers a 3. And they get Heitfeld on the foul. Well, there's Mark Few. He's in his 10th season as the head man at Gonzaga. He's won 20 games every single year as the head coach, and among active coaches, second best winning percentage. And a step in, Pargo with the steal. And Jeremy Pargo looking for some help. Heitfeld, he tries a 3.
They don't mind him shooting that shot normally in the course of the flow of the offense, but I would go inside early if I were the Zags.
Bolden, the rebound of the Thomas miss, and 2 good offensive teams ice cold to start the game.
In Austin Day, you really have a mobile 4-man.
Well, for the first time since 1990, no Sutton coaching Oklahoma State. For more on that, third member of our team, Andy Katz.
Well, as Fran knows, anytime you take over a program, it's hard to get your system in early. But Travis Ford telling me last night, he's really surprised how well his players have picked it up early. They had a huge win over Tulsa, and he said he now firmly believes they can play with any team in the country. Assistant coach Butch Pierre echoing those thoughts today, really believing that these guys can play with anyone, and really surprised how well they picked it up.
That's a great point, Andy. You know, watching these Oklahoma State kids, like I have for the last 4 years, they are playing with a smile on their face, and obviously great success under the Suttons. But Travis Ford is going to allow these 4 guards to really do their thing.
Lob attempt for Thomas, turnover. Gonzaga basketball. They beat Grambling State the other night, 91-60. And they shot 39 threes in that game.
They're going to be a feast. Andy's right about the fact that they're going to be able to play with most teams on a given night in the country. They're going to be very feast or famine sometimes because they are going to live and die at the three-point line. Just got to go back to Travis Fort's career at Kentucky, and you know what kind of style he wants to play.
Feed into Heitfeld. Over Thomas, can't get it to go. Sloppy play early on. Eaton. Turnover. Bolden pushes up ahead. Downs rattles it home. Acrobatic layup for Downs, and Gonzaga with the first points of the game.
Terrific pass by Matt Bolden, running that break at 6'5".
4 turnovers now on Oklahoma State. Fran, I mean, if one of these sides has an excuse for being cold, Gonzaga hasn't played in 9 days.
Well, that's true, but you know they're going to be ready to play. They've been looking forward to this opportunity, and I also think they are ready to get up and down the floor knowing who the opponent is. So as much as they have been in the past, a half-court team on occasion with the flex offense, this is a very athletic Gonzaga group.
Okay, the 6'10 sophomore kicks out Pargo. Downs with good shooting range and hits there. Started his career at Kansas before transferring. He's a native of Kirkland, Washington.
And like Heitfeld, another fifth-year senior, looking for that breakout season.
Anderson's three too long. And Fargo, a little crossover, pulls up. Ira Brown is checked in for the Zags. Got a piece of that, but Harris comes away with it. And in and out goes Anderson's shot.
That's what I mean by feast or famine when they're going.
Downs kept his foot on the court. Barely.
Barely.
Bolden working on the slender Harris. Day tries the three and is short. Eaton, little runner. Day the board. Zags up 5-0. Only 5 points scored as we close in on 4 minutes gone by in this game.
Well, the pace is great for Oklahoma State if you make shots. But as I mentioned, you rely on that three ball. It's going to be feast or famine.
Day travels.
Now here's that last look. Watch Micah Downs. He thinks he's going to go shoot it. It's challenged by James Anderson. It looks like it. Oh, it did come off. It did come off.
Good shadow work there by our crew. So 5-0 Oklahoma State basketball. They're 0 for 6 from the floor. And Dimitri Goodson, the freshman, is checked in for Gonzaga.
Ibrahima Thomas, about 7 feet tall. He's shown that ability to knock down threes in the past.
Good look. Goodson penetrates and finds Heitfeld.
They love Dimitri Goodson. He challenges Jeremy Pargo every day in practice. He's a pest. You think back to those early successful Gonzaga teams, Quentin Hall. They compare him to Quentin Hall in that Elite 8 team back in 98, 99.
Well, you know all about Jeremy Pargo, the reigning player of the year in the West Coast Conference, but the Zags will get a boost this year from their lightning quick freshman point guard, Dimitri Goodson. The ability to penetrate and dish, and he finds the 5th-year senior.
It's brought to you by Old Spice and Verizon Wireless.
It's the Old Spice Classic, part of Feast Week, presented by Lowe's. Number 10 Gonzaga leading 7-3, and they get their big fella going with some good penetration.
Well, nice job by the freshman Goodson. Heitfeld gets the easy look, and you know it's been a long 5 years, John, for Josh Heitfeld. There's so much buildup for him when he came in. You think back to the 05-06 season. Remember when he hurt his ankle against UConn in the Maui Classic final, and then he's had a star-crossed 4 years. Drug suspension as a junior. Got through that. Teammates welcomed him back. He's already graduated, working on graduate classes right now, but if he stays healthy, he is a big factor in a potential long NCAA run by the Zags.
He missed the first 11 games last year with a stress fracture in his foot, and then came back, was okay for about a couple of weeks, and then it started to go south on him, and he actually had another surgery after the season and said, finally, now it feels great, that right foot.
You watch him as an NBA prospect, and you think of Mehmet Okur from the Utah Jazz, because he can really shoot the ball from outside, post up a little bit. Great pick and pop guy, and runs the floor really well.
Speaking of being able to shoot it, Stephen Gray for the Zags has checked in. One of the shot clock, Goodson didn't see it, and it's a violation. The freshman didn't see the shot clock. Third turnover for the Zags, and Mark Few's team leading by 4.
Well, keep in mind, when you're playing high school basketball in Houston, Texas, you don't have a shot clock. It's one of, it sounds silly, but it's one of those things that you need to get used to, particularly when your team plays at a fast pace and the clock doesn't wind down very often. It's a good matchup, Eton and Goodson.
Eton's 3 misses the mark. Manello with the follow and miss, but right there, Anthony Brown, the senior from Brooklyn, New York, only the 4th New Yorker ever to play at Oklahoma State, as Ira Brown went down hard, missing the dunk.
Another great look by Goodson.
There's James Anderson drilling a 3. And Oklahoma State out front by a point.
John, you see a little token full court pressure. Oklahoma State doesn't have the depth that Travis Ford had at UMass the last couple of years, where they change their defenses quite frequently.
Jump ball, possession arrow, and it'll go over to Oklahoma State. Ira Brown, the 26-year-old senior.
Well, he doesn't dunk with his left hand, which is why he misses this shot right there. Boy, look at this. Well, you know a little bit about his background, right? His baseball background.
Yeah, pitched in the minor leagues for 5 years with the Kansas City Royals. Pitched in their organization and was a great junior college basketball player for a couple of years after he finished playing in the minor leagues.
I like the story he told us yesterday. I think was it spring training where he beat Kevin Millwood in an exhibition game right out here at the stadium here at the beautiful Wide World of Sports.
Yeah, pitched against Kevin Millwood, and Millwood, I guess he said, was pitching in a minor league game. Yep. Good block there. Pargo leads the Zags the other way. He's fouled. He'll go to the line.
We'll take a look at Josh Heitfeld now as he erases this shot by Obi Manello coming from the weak side. And we talked about it in the first game. If you block a ball to the board now, that one was above the rim. So theoretically, John, that's a goaltending. The new rule this year is if you block the ball, and I think you've got to hold it against the board, so I'll take that back. If you block that ball against the glass with your hand, that entire ball has got to be above the cylinder. That time he cleanly blocked it away from the backboard. You know, Gonzaga has so many X factors this year. You talk about Austin Day and his health, and Heitfeld and his health, and Jeremy Pargo only averaging 6 points a game so far, but 9 assists. And he came back from putting his name in the NBA draft, and he got the feedback he got was just show us that you can run a club. Don't worry about your scoring. So far, he's off to 9 assists per game.
Another block there. Pargo leads him out front.
Good solid D right there by Eton.
Knocked away, and now Harris the other way against Day. And one.
Perfect. Now he understood that Day was not going to get in front of him, and so what Harris did was he initiated the contact. He took that right at Austin Day. This is a terrific play.
Teed up.
Well, watch this. Watch him take him right into the body because Day never established his legal guarding position by getting in front of him. And Terrell Harris understood angles right there.
Mark Few getting teed up. High bounce. Harris gets it to go. He was unhappy with that call.
That was a good call because Austin Day, in retreating, never got in front, and that's a senior play by Harris. This is a young man that is off to a terrific start to a senior year. after being in a season-long shooting slump as a junior, shooting under 30% from three-point land.
Oklahoma State leading by 4.
John, the rule here is that's a point of interruption, so they shoot the 2 technical fouls, and now Harris has a chance to complete the original three-point play, and so we go back to live action. In the old days, they take the ball out at half court, and you'd lose a possession, and all hell would break loose.
Can't convert there. Heitfeld the board. So Gonzaga basketball down by 4. Keaton Page, an outstanding freshman for Oklahoma State, is checked in. Bolden rushing that shot as it was contested. Manello comes away with it.
Look how quick they get out.
Brown swatted away by Heitfeld.
Yeah. Brown soft-shoed that ball up there. You need to take that ball right through Heitfeld to the rim. See, he babied this. You got to get Heitfeld in foul trouble right here. Take your athleticism and go right at Heitfeld, but he just babies it up there. And Heitfeld doesn't allow that ball to get any closer.
Eton handling right here. Kick to the corner. And a 3 knocked down by Terrell Harris. And Travis Ford, 6 days after he was named head coach, first thing he did was suspend Terrell Harris. But Harris has responded, and in drills and in practice, he says that Harris is the guy winning everything. It's a big summer for Terrell Harris. Went to Houston, worked with John Lucas Sr. Bolden fighting for the loose ball. Eton comes away with it. Anderson now. Cowboys by 5. And good hands by Pargo. Knocked out of bounds. It'll be Oklahoma State basketball when we come back. Cowboys leading by 5 here at the Milk House. Tonight's broadcast on ESPN2 available in spectacular high definition. It's the Old Spice Classic, part of Feast Week, presented by Lowe's. Oklahoma State leading by 5. Coach, what do you got for us right here?
When you've got, John, a 4-guard offense and a guy that can penetrate the lane like Byron Eton can, you're going to get a lot of open looks. Take a look at this now. We talk about getting a piece of the paint if you're the ball handler. So once he gets into the lane, watch the 4. You're going to see 4 white shirts right here. Eton recognizes that he's drawn the help, and he kicks it out to Anderson, who gets an open look. Or was that Harris? That was Terrell Harris. Well, I tell you what, I've mentioned this before. Terrell Harris has got a little brother, Kendall, in 8th grade in Dallas. He is one of the best 8th grade players in all of the country.
Terrell Harris off to a good start. He's got 7.
You get a chance to see what Oklahoma State's pace is like once they start to make some shots.
Anderson to the goal, and they get Downs with the foul. Friday afternoon, ESPN with a couple of college basketball games. 1 Eastern, it's Tennessee and Georgetown, number 12 against number 16. And then 3 Eastern, it's Duquesne going up against number 5, Duke, and Kyle Singler. Part of Feast Week presented by Lowe's.
Early in this game, Oklahoma State has already won the first mental battle because the Zags have gone to a 4-guard lineup. Now they're going to bring Will Foster in for Heitfeld, but they basically have 4 guards on the floor, so they're matching down to Oklahoma State rather than punishing Oklahoma State on the offensive end with their big people.
Will Foster checking in, 7'5" junior from Buckley, Washington. He was at the park last night going on. He was sitting behind me when we went on Rock and Roller Coaster. I couldn't even imagine how he folded himself into it, but he was able to do it.
You know, he's an interesting guy because he's a Mark Eaton type. He can really affect the game on the defensive end.
Bolden is fouled, and he will go to the line. Coach, as far as Oklahoma State and their smaller lineup, one of the things that's interesting is that a survey recently of over 300 coaches about 60% of teams play at least 3 guards. So you're seeing more 3-guard attacks, not 4-guard attacks, but more 3-guard attacks than ever before.
Well, I think the primary reason is the ability of guards to be able to dribble, penetrate into the lane. Passing is worse than it's ever been. You talk to the old coaches, they'll tell you that. But dribbling and ball handling by people is the hardest thing to guard in basketball right now. So when you combine some outside shooting from behind the three-point line with the ability like a guy like Eton to get into the lane, it's become very effective. Now think to Villanova a few years ago when they went to the 4-guard lineup, and you get a taste of what Oklahoma State's going to be a lot this season.
Anderson over Foster, but can't hit.
That's the first shot James Anderson, I bet you, has ever shot over a 7'5" player.
Fargo feeds Gray, can shoot it, but he's long there. And they get Will Foster on the foul.
Now, if you're 7'5" and you got a 6'6" guy, you don't need to be pushing inside. But take a look at this now. He looks like he's got a good look, and then all of a sudden, this hand comes out of nowhere.
Blocks out the sun.
Yep. See that last foul by Foster. He's 7'5". Anthony Brown is not jumping over him, so there's no reason to give him the shove inside.
First foul on Foster, 7-team foul, so 1-1, and Brown hits the first.
Now, early in the season, John, Oklahoma State shooting 75% from the foul line, so unlike that uncharacteristically poor Michigan State effort from the line in this first half, if Oklahoma State makes their free throws, it's going to really help them.
This will be a well-conditioned Oklahoma State team. Travis Ford even said he could tell first practice as they get Harris on the foul how much different it was, that they were going from one extreme to another, a defense first type of perspective to a push the pace perspective, and he said he noticed it right away.
Yeah, and they're going to be able to play this pace in spurts, but you got to remember, over the course of a 30-game season, you're going to have injuries, and then nightly you're going to have somebody in foul trouble, and this is not a deep team right now. This UMass team last year that went to the NIT final was a 9 or 10-man deep team, and they could press on every dead ball. This is going to be a different type of pressure this year by the Cowboys.
Day sets the screen. Bolden finds him. Day for 3. Got it. Well, the big guy is slender. He can work inside and outside and show the range there.
He really likes to work outside.
Page way off. Foster the board.
Keaton Page is the guy that averaged 44 a game last year as a senior.
Nice look. Good pass. Day to Gray. And the Zags are within 4.
You get a chance to see Austin Day's versatility at 6'10". He does a lot of things well. A little zone right now, a little matchup zone.
Eton uses the ball fake, the floater, and there's Brown with the follow and the putback over Will Foster.
Anthony Brown really wasted a junior year last year with an injury.
And they get Foster with another foul. Let's go over to Andy Katz for more on Austin Day.
Well, as you see there, he's wearing a knee brace on that right knee, and Fran was on one end of the court. I was sort of mid-court up in Akron at the LeBron James Nike Skills Academy, and Day just had a simple cut, fell down. Leon Rice and Mark Few, Leon Rice, the assistant for Gonzaga, were in the gym, and there was a hush that fell over the gym, as Fran knows. And the diagnosis initially was a hamstring, then it became an ACL, then it became just some sort of knee strain, but they still shut him down for the rest of the summer. So his conditioning was really affected out the course of the August and really into September, and he's still trying to get into his top shape. And remember that, Fran, there was a lot of fear in the faces of those Gonzaga coaches.
Well, and I think, you know, it was in a gym with 25 of the best college players. You know, guys like Johnny Flynn and Steph Curry, and absolutely, nobody wants to see an injury, a serious injury, to happen in the offseason when you don't even get a chance to get on the court. Nice back cut.
Nice move, Bolden, as Pargo found him.
Well, a terrific ball movement. You talk about two guys hooking up. Byron Eton.
Into the lane amongst the trees, had it slapped away. Stephen Gray finds Pargo. Day another triple and gets another. And the Zags within one.
That's what I mentioned, John. The Zags deeper. They don't mind this pace at all. They can score from different parts on the floor. It's amazing how many guys. Mark Few told us yesterday he's got about 7 guys that could get 20 on a given night.
Bolden pulls down the rebound, and Gonzaga with a chance to take the lead.
Boy, you talk about 3-guard offenses. Bolden's like having a second point guard on the floor.
Off the mark there. And Anthony Brown pulls down the rebound over Robert Sacre, checked in a few moments back. Nice move. Eton couldn't finish. And then a careless foul. They get Anthony Brown with that foul, but Austin Day can do a little bit of everything.
Well, this is a team with a few guys that can do a little bit of everything. You see the dish right there to Stephen Gray, and then he just comes right back, knocks down the 3. But you talk about versatility. Day, Bolden, Heitfeld, Jeremy Pargo can score when you need him to score.
We're here at the Old Spice Classic, part of Feast Week presented by Lowe's. Number 10 Gonzaga taking on Oklahoma State. John Shambi, Fran Fraschilla, Andy Katz with you. Foul on the floor as they get Obi Manello with that one. Under 8 timeout here in the first half. Oklahoma State by a point.
Gave him a great effort, and Maryland advances. What a performance.
Our Old Spice player of the game, Tennessee and Georgetown, 1 semifinal. Andy Katz, Maryland hanging out and awaiting the winner of this one.
Game. Grievous Vasquez said after the game that Gary Williams walked into the locker room before the game and says, look, we're going to win this tournament. He said that he gave this team incredible confidence to come out and play the way they did against Michigan State. Meanwhile, Gary said that this does change the complexion of their season. It certainly raises expectations for the Terps going forward.
Big win for the Terps as they thumped the number 6 team in the country.
Tell you what was impressive was they led the whole first half. Michigan State had that 10-0 run that bridged both halves, and then a monster momentum changer as they just dominated the Terps did down the stretch. See, the Zags will play a lot of zone. Big question with the Zags every year is, do they have enough defensively to advance? Offensively, we know what they can do, John, but there have been times during the decade where Mark Few's teams have been so great that they haven't come up with big stops in key times.
Nick Sidorkis checked in, stepped on the baseline, and checks out. Gonzaga down by a point. Tell you the other thing, Fran, is the Zags lost some toughness with Abdullahi Kuso gone, and really the guy who was their real grit, David Pendergrass.
Well, that's true, but you know they should have enough experience that they understand what that toughness is about.
Anderson for 3 and nails that one. James Anderson led the team in scoring as a freshman, just over 13 a game. Offensive foul on Stephen Gray. Oklahoma State by 4. And tomorrow afternoon on ESPN2, a couple of college basketball games for the Dick's Sporting Goods NIT tip-off at 1:30. The third place game matches UAB and BC. And then the championship game at 3:30 Eastern. The number 13 team, Oklahoma, led by Blake Griffin, going up against number 9 Purdue.
And you got 2 of the underrated guards in college basketball, and Robert Vaden of UAB and Tyrese Rice of Boston College. Purdue, of course, picked in the preseason polls to win the Big Ten, and Michigan State picked number 2.
Matt Painter's got an experienced team, but a young team.
And Oklahoma State is at their best. It's about dribble penetration. And James Anderson doesn't get a lot of open looks because of the attention he gets from defenses, but oftentimes a great time to get that open 3 is in transition when the defense is scrambled.
That last foul on Anthony Brown, that's his second. 8th team foul on Oklahoma State. There's 9 on Gonzaga, so Downs to the line. Micah Downs, very good shooter. You mentioned Mark Few talking about all the guys that could drop 20 on you. Micah Downs is one of those guys.
He absolutely is. Guy has great range. He's got great bounce. He can run the floor. He's got that wiry build that allows him to get to the rim as a slasher. And he too, like Heitfeld, looking for a breakout senior season. It's always been about potential with Micah Brown, going back to his first year at Kansas.
Feed down low. Brown working on Sacre. Kicks out to Eton. Baseline jumper. Soft touch.
Boy, that's that shot fake. Bob Knight mentioned it the other night, one of the great weapons in offensive basketball. His ability to knock down threes allows that little pump fake to get him in the air. And he's so good in the mid-range.
What did Coach Knight say? He said it's his favorite play.
Yep.
Good cut by Bolden, but he couldn't finish. Gets the rebound and then has it taken away by Harris. Offensive foul as Terrell Harris bowls over the freshman Dimitri Goodson. That is foul number 3 on Terrell Harris. Let's head back to the studio and Steve Bunin.
Thanks, John. Fran, over on ESPN, number 2 Texas dismantling Texas A&M. Colt McCoy has already got 2 rushing and 2 passing touchdowns, so that game's a blowout. For now, back to Orlando and the dramatic finish to the first half between Gonzaga and Oklahoma State, guys.
Just under 6 to go here, Steve, and Oklahoma State by 5. All right, Coach, I'll let you get it in. Who's your Heisman pick right now?
Right now, it's got to be Sam Bradford. Of course, that could change after tonight, but Sam Bradford, it's gone back and forth all year, as you know, week to week. Colt McCoy still in the picture. Obviously, Tebow has come on like gangbusters. Graham Harrell looked like he was in great shape until Saturday night in Norman.
Wow.
And then Michael Crabtree, you can't leave him out of the picture.
Here at the Old Spice Classic, the Milk House, Disney's Wide World of Sports complex in Lake Buena Vista.
I learned my college football from Ron Franklin. You spend all season with Ron in basketball, and you pick up some good stuff.
Bolden, good move up and under.
Yeah, Matt Bolden is...
And a block there as Goodson couldn't get into position against the quick Byron Eton.
Eton is so strong. There's a guy that was he was a freshman on a high school team in Dallas, Lincoln High School, with a guy named Chris Bosch. That's how long he's been around. He was a freshman when Chris Bosch was a senior. And John, he was an unbelievable high school football player at Lincoln High School, recruited as a quarterback. And there was a stretch early in his Oklahoma State career that I think he might have thought about going back out on the gridiron. But midway through last season in the Big 12 under Sean Sutton and early in this year, the lights really come on, and he's one of the best point guards in the Big 12.
Weight has been an issue for him, but he's really gotten that under control. He's at 210 pounds right now, and it's an interesting battle between he and Pargo when they're on the court at the same time, because they're both not big guys, but they're both physical.
They're power guards, no question. And when you get into the lane off the dribble, you really have to be able to body yourself against bigger guys. Watch
Downs wide, open. Sacre fighting for the board.
See, where Gonzaga is at a real advantage is depth. Terrell Harris sits down with 3. Now you've got Keaton Page, a freshman in there. Anthony Brown's got 2. And that's why I mentioned earlier, feast or famine for Oklahoma State. There are going to be nights where someone gets hurt, someone gets in foul trouble, and when they go to the bench, it's going to really be a disadvantage.
Bolden will sit down. Stephen Gray, outstanding shooter, will check back in. Matt Bolden, he's really one of the unsung players. You hear so many different names with the Zags, whether it's Heitfeld or Pargo or Day, but Bolden, a very good player. Sacre hits there. Robert Sacre gives him some size, 7-footer from Canada, and was just cleared to play with Sacre coming back from foot surgery, so he gives him a little more beef up front.
Well, and he should give him some beef because his dad, Greg LaFleur, played in the NFL, an NFL tight end.
Keaton Page using a window for 2.
Now, Keaton Page looks like the team manager, but this is a guy that is a prolific scorer, averaged 33 points a game in his high school career.
Good look by Downs and good work by Oklahoma State to deflect it out.
Keaton Page, what was the guy in Hoosiers that made the free throws under him?
Ollie.
He looks like Ollie.
Absolutely.
He's Ollie. That's his nickname for the rest of the year in the Big 12. I'm sorry, Keaton. He's Ollie. Except he can shoot it better.
Gray's triple is short. Eton pulls it down in front of his buddy Pargo. Anderson on the baseline, and it'll go the other way. Offensive foul. So they get Anderson with that foul, and that's his second.
And this is the problem Oklahoma State is going to have. You're going to play aggressively. You're going to attack the paint off the dribble. You're going to be relentless. But the underlying issue now becomes foul trouble. That's good scouting report stuff, too, because Anderson loves to drive left.
James Anderson, what a freshman year he had. Now, he slowed down as the season went on.
Part of that reason was he's a very predictable player. He's a left-handed driver for a righty and gets most of his shots moving to his left. And teams pick up on videotape as the year goes on. A little flex offense.
Downs. And Goodson able to get in there and put it home.
Mark Few has told us this is one of his most unselfish teams. As much scoring as he has, it's a very unselfish basketball team.
Mello can't hit. Now they pushed the pace so far in this one, but neither side able to shoot better than 34%. So that's been the issue. Oh, Pargo from deep hits the three, and the Zags take their first lead since 7-5 with 14:15 left. And an offensive foul. Ira Brown energizing his team.
Well, Jeremy Pargo, we talked about how he sacrifices his scoring this year, but don't sleep on this guy because he can light it up in a hurry.
All right, Steve, we look forward to that here at the Milk House Old Spice Classic, part of Feast Week presented by Lowe's. Number 10 Gonzaga leading by a point.
Hey, by the way, Doug Gottlieb would have loved this style of play, huh? Of course, they did run. He played with some very good players.
Let's go over to Andy Katz for more on Jeremy Pargo.
Well, Jeremy Pargo should be familiar with this court. He was here for the pre-draft camp in May when they were holding it here at Wild Wilder Sports. And Pargo really did want to stay in the NBA draft. And as you see at the top here, his brother Gennaro played in the NBA, now playing professionally in Russia. The coaching staff really leaned on Gennaro to talk some sense into Jeremy, make sure he understood why he should stay, not go the hard route the way Gennaro had to get to the NBA.
Yeah, he waited to the last possible moment. Did Jeremy Pargo to withdraw his name the final day that he was allowed to do so.
It's interesting. He's one of those guys that, I'm not sure how talented an NBA player he'll be, but he really believes he can play in the NBA, and that's half the battle. Very tough-minded Chicago kid.
Page from deep. Off the mark again, and a rebound for Pargo.
Look at this team. Every time Gonzaga comes back on the court, they have guys that can score.
Like Stephen Gray, the leaner off the glass. Overall, I like what Hubert Davis said when we were in Puerto Rico. If you're interested in going to the NBA and you wonder if you're ready, if you have to ask, you're not ready. Good work down low. Malcolm Kirkland with the bucket.
They've had to go deep in their bench right now with the junior college transfer from Arkansas, Fort Smith. And what you want to do now is, no pun intended, is just hold the fort down. If you're Oklahoma State, just get to halftime.
And Goodson fouled. They get Malcolm Kirkland with that foul. Well, ESPN tomorrow, a couple of good ones for you. 1 Eastern here at the Old Spice Classic. It is number 12 Tennessee, number 16 Georgetown. And then at 3 Eastern, Duquesne and number 5 Duke, all part of Feast Week presented by Lowe's. Maryland with a big win in our first game tonight, and UNC #1, beating up on Notre Dame the other night. Duke at 5. And Miami's only lost to UConn.
Miami with Jack McClinton. You talk about shooters. We always talk about Steph Curry, Kyle McElharney, of course. And Jack McClinton in his own right, an outstanding three-point shooter. They've got a nice club. Frank Hait's done an unbelievable job with the Hurricanes.
Jack McClinton, a transfer, former Siena Saint.
That's right.
Brandon McCaffrey and company here. You wonder, gosh, can you imagine them with Jack McClinton? Here's Gray the other way, and he's fouled.
You see how quickly Gonzaga does not mind getting the ball out and pushing it on the make.
1:34 to go here in the first half, and Oklahoma State leading by a deuce.
We talk about a staple, you know, we talk about the dribble drive offense by Memphis, but there's a great example of what dribble penetration does to break a defense down, and a great extra pass by Keaton Page right there, who had the open shot.
Gonzaga's caught a little bit of that Michigan State bug. They're 5 of 12 from the line here in the first half.
Usually reliable 72% on the season.
Spartans were 12 of 27 in their 80-62 loss to Maryland.
And you know, and as bad as the free throw shooting was, I don't really even think that was the backbreaker. I just think they got outworked tonight. Maryland held their own on the glass. They got that first punch in.
Manello gets the friendly roll.
Obi Manello is a guy that's made great sacrifices for this team. He has to play inside at the 4 spot, but he's a very, very mobile guy, obviously.
Pargo explosive to the rim.
Well, you don't want to leave Bolden, who shoots 37% from behind the arc, so Pargo gets in there.
End-to-end action here, and the offense is starting to get a little more comfortable each way.
I'm going to ask you this, John. How hard will it be to keep Byron Eaton out of the paint this season?
Oh, I mean, the quickness and the physicality, that combo, tough for anybody that's got to play against them. Travis Ford calls a timeout.
You know, this is a perfect style for Oklahoma State. Travis Ford, of course, came to UMass, but his bloodlines go back. He started at Missouri for a year because Eddie Sutton was coaching at Kentucky, and he had a point guard by the name of Sean Sutton. When Rick Pitino took over, the little guy, Travis Ford, how about this career? Unbelievable career at Kentucky, and now in the coaching ranks. Pretty good, huh?
Absolutely, and a guy who's done well as a coach, had an outstanding career. We saw one of his former teammates in Norman, Oklahoma, and I felt like there was a similar vibe to the Sean Woods practice and the Travis Ford practice. Yeah. I'm not sure why, but just for some reason.
Well, I have a feeling that the influence of Rick Pitino played a part in that. You know, Travis shot 53% from behind the arc in 1993. It was a career 88% free throw shooter at Kentucky. Yeah, with Sean Woods, Mississippi Valley, they've been on some road trip.
Yep.
Every time you talk about Chevy Chase's, was that National Lampoon's Vacation? When they bring those suitcases back to Ada Bena, Mississippi, they're going to have all the stickers on where they've been.
Little stamps on the outside.
Phoenix, Missoula, Montana.
Yeah, Pullman, Washington. Norman, Oklahoma. Game clock closing in on 40 seconds as Micah Downs kicks out to Bolden. And his 3 too strong. Good rebound there. And a kick ahead. And Eaton couldn't save it.
Manello knows he did a good job of hustling down that rebound. Take a look, you see he's got Eaton ahead. And Eaton, we talked about, former football player. He needs to know he only needs 1 foot in.
Right. That would have been a brilliant save or touchdown catch, however you want to do it. 10 turnovers on Oklahoma State. Each side has struggled offensively, Fran. 38% from the floor for the Zags, 33 for Oklahoma State. They tried to push the pace. They just haven't really found the range.
Well, haven't made enough shots.
So Gonzaga will hold for the last shot. Bulldogs, Jeremy Pargo, senior point guard, working on the freshman Keaton Page.
And there's nobody you can leave right now because you have 4 3-point shooters on the floor. This will be a pick and pop right here.
Pargo pulls up. 3 is off the mark, knocked out of bounds, and time expires. So we'll go to the break here in Lake Buena Vista. Mark Few's team trailing by a point. Oklahoma State came out and really put it to the Zags, but overall a solid first half, and we'll see if Travis Ford is pleased. He's standing by with Andy Katz.
Travis, you guys gave sort of the first punch. They had a counter punch, but then you delivered one back. How were you able to respond?
Well, the first half was definitely a game of spurts. No question. Both teams went on a couple different spurts themselves. We got in some pretty serious foul trouble. We weren't making many shots. Just glad we survived this first half because we did have some key guys in foul trouble.
They had Josh Heitfeld with 2 fouls, so they were not able to be effective inside. How do you get inside even more when he'll be playing in the second half?
Well, you know, we're not going to throw it inside a whole lot anyway, so we just want to continue to get this game going up and down. I like our work ethic, our guys right now. Our attitude seems to be pretty good. We just got to make sure we try to make a few more shots. That's what's hurting us. We're getting some good looks. We're just not putting it in a hole right now.
All right, good luck in the second half, Travis. Let's go back to you guys.
Andy, should be a great second half. Long way to go for the Zags fans from Spokane here on Thanksgiving. Oklahoma State leading it by a point. Head back to the studio. Steve Bunin and the Dick's Sporting Goods halftime report.
Thanks, John. It's a pretty good game there to wrap up the action in Orlando, and right now in the NFL.
Priscilla, along with Andy Katz as well. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Well, they pushed the pace in the first half, but each side struggled a little bit to shoot the ball.
Well, they did. Oklahoma State's going to rely on the 3-ball all year. Gonzaga a little more versatile, but both teams really coming up shooting blanks, if you will.
And in terms of point guard play, getting into the paint, Byron Eaton was outstanding.
Well, that's his job. And if he can get into that lane and draw defensive help, it is going to open it up for guys like James Anderson and Terrell Harris. And ball movement's good, but they only were 6 of 15 from behind the arc. That's 33%, and probably not what Travis Ford likes, but he's got to like the fact that he's got a 1-point lead.
Bulldogs basketball start the second half.
And they open up in a little zone here, a little 2-3 zone. You got to know where those shooters are because there's 2 or 3 of them on the floor right now for the Zags.
Good block by Thomas and a turnover. Anderson the other way. Eaton for 3. Ibrahima Thomas. And they get Heitfeld, I think, with a foul.
Wow.
Indeed, number 3. More on that in a moment, but right now we go to Andy Katz.
Well, thanks, John. And talking to head coach Mark Few of Gonzaga coming out of the locker room, he said, first of all, we got to make our free throws. They were 6 of 13. Also, when they get in the lane, he was a little frustrated about how they weren't able to finish on those plays getting into the lane. But he did say they were able to survive Austin Day and Josh Heitfeld getting into foul trouble. And then defensively, he said they've just got to extend and get out to those shooters here early in the second half, guys.
Well, now they've got to survive 3 fouls by Josh Heitfeld, so you wonder how aggressive he'll be on both ends of the floor. Only played 7 minutes, John, in the first half, and 1 for 3 from the field.
Now, they have depth in terms of size, but the issue is Heitfeld's a special player. They want him on the court.
Well, he's the one guy, really, that can hurt you down low if you're going against this light Oklahoma State front line, but you know, he's going to have to be a little cautious.
Stay Zags basketball.
Well, I mentioned this in Puerto Rico. That was a poorly thrown pass by Micah Downs, almost hard to catch. And post feeding in the early going this year in college basketball is brutal.
You need to do it below the free throw line. That's your point, right?
You got to establish angles inside. And there you see the big fella now. Mark Few is leaving Josh Heitfeld in there with the 3 fouls. So he doesn't want to do what Raymar Morgan did, and that was pretty much play invisibly the whole game with foul trouble in that Michigan State loss to Maryland.
Pargo swings today. Bolden gets into the lane and lays it in.
Well, you mentioned Matt Bolden's versatility in the first half. Well, last year he averaged 13 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, and he plays with a great IQ.
And a 3 there for Obi Manello.
Well, he can heat up. That's his 3rd 3 of the night. And interestingly, he's doing it from the power forward spot.
And an answer at the other end.
We got more offense in the first minute and a half than we had that whole first half.
Harris answers on his own.
Boy, how about this?
Well, this is a little more like what we anticipated.
Well, they were running in the first half, John. You know, they just weren't making shots.
Day, little up and under move.
It was a pretty step through.
Harris knocks it out of bounds, and it'll go over to the Zags.
Now watch Bolden. The lane opens up. He gets to the rim pretty easily. And it's not going to make Travis Ford too happy, but this right now is a situation where the Zags trying to win a war of attrition because they're the deeper team.
Pargo posting up on Eton to become friends during the summer circle. From the corner, Micah Downs with a 3, and both sides starting to heat up offensively. Anderson answers.
Boy, how about this?
Wow. And the offense has gotten going both ways.
Now remember, Oklahoma State loves to play this pace under Travis Ford. Question is, are they going to wear out?
Downs draws the foul. It'll go to the line.
Watch this, John. You don't see a post situation very often. He's backing Eton down, and then he becomes a point guard from the post, and he finds Micah Downs open in that weak side corner.
So there you go. Jeremy Pargo, 2 and 7 when he scores 20 or more, but when the assists are high. And it's interesting because that echoes what the NBA people told him.
Well, and the big thing for Jeremy Pargo is how much does your ego affect the season? You're a senior, and you know you want to be averaging double figures, 14, 15, or 16, wanting to impress NBA scouts. But as has been talked about to him by his coaches and his brother Gennaro, run Gonzaga's team and get them deep in the tournament, and you'll get all the exposure you need.
Barely 3 minutes into this second half, and we've already had 3 ties and 3 lead changes.
Good look.
Bolden down low. Day tried to toss the Heitfeld. And Bolden spinning on the baseline, hanging, couldn't finish. Manello the rebound.
Look how quick Oklahoma State gets out. They got 4 guys that can handle it in transition.
Downs pulls down the Anderson miss.
Watch the lob.
Day couldn't corral it, and it'll go the other way. Tamayo on ESPN2. Couple of college basketball games from the Dick's Sporting Goods NIT tip-off, and 1:30 Eastern, third place game, UAB NBC. Then 3:30, it's the championship. Number 9 Purdue, number 13 Oklahoma. The Dick's Sporting Goods NIT tip-off, part of Feast Week, presented by Lowe's. ESPN2 on Friday, and of course Blake Griffin, who has been ferocious this year, try and lead Jeff Capel's team to the title.
And Matt Painter's done a remarkable job of rebuilding Boilermaker basketball as well.
Anderson fouls Downs on the floor. That is the 3rd foul on James Anderson. So Harris, Thomas, and Anderson all with 3 for an Oklahoma team that is not especially deep.
And on the other hand, Heitfeld gets that 3rd foul. They play him a little bit, and then they go to the bench to settle him down, and they've got the depth to bring in a guy like Sacre, only a sophomore, but a big body. Tell you what, you're not going to get by Byron Eton physically.
Great move by Downs, but he couldn't finish. Sacre fighting for the loose ball. Harris comes away with it, and they get Austin Day. 3rd foul on Day. Mike View's team leading by 2, breaking the action here from the Old Spice Classic in Orlando. And And here at the Milk House, Disney's Wide World of Sports Complex in Lake Buena Vista, the Old Spice Classic, part of Feast Week, presented by Lowe's. Gonzaga by 2, but Obi Manello's been doing a little bit of everything.
Well, this is a guy that came to Oklahoma State as a scorer out of Santa Fe High School, Edmond, Oklahoma, right outside Oklahoma City. He's got the range to knock down threes because he is, by and large, a perimeter player. But how about this, John? He's had to be the 4-man for Oklahoma State on a defensive end. He averaged 3 rebounds a game last year, and he's already got 11 tonight. He's already got a double-double on the season. So Obi Manello, at only 6'5", really has sacrificed his overall game for the good of this undermanned Cowboy team.
Just a junior, dealt with a lot this summer. He actually worked out at home with his family, his brothers watching over him. One of them, Chuddy, is in remission, stage 3 lymphoma, and that's certainly good news. We wish him the best, but Obi got a chance to be under the watchful eye of his brothers, and Travis Forbes checking in to make sure that Obi was doing well.
Well, these guys are in terrific condition, and they're going to have to be, because the starting 5 is playing a lot of minutes this year.
And right there, they get Ibrahima Thomas with the foul.
Now, he's a promising young postman, but let me tell you what's not smart here. You got a guy in Sacre who's not yet proven that he can score in low, and you're 7 feet as well. So why do you need to foul him? Even if he catches the ball 8 feet from the basket and he makes a move over you, you now pick up a foul and you're going to sit down for a while. And he got in foul trouble a lot last year as a freshman.
Sacre kicks out to Gray, and he's off the mark, but a good board by Downs. So you're saying he needs to show you he can score there. Talking about Sacre.
Yeah, why pick up a foul on a guy? It's not like, you know, you're guarding Tyler Hansborough. With all due respect to Sacre, let him make a couple, but don't put your team in a bad spot because you pick up a cheap foul.
Brown pops out after the screen by Sacre. They feed him down low, off the window, can't hit, and the Cowboys the other way, trying to tie or take the lead.
And there's unfortunately, the young man proved my point right there. He's going to be a good player, but he's not proven to be a scorer yet. And he hadn't played all year.
Lead pass to Downs, toss to Pargo, can't finish. And the tap, the officials look at each other. It stays Gonzaga basketball. I don't think anybody touched it after it was tapped.
I agree. I don't think anybody from the orange jerseys touched it. And it's one of those things where I think watch this now. See, and you see the point. I love that by Sacre. The officials aren't sure. Sacre points Gonzaga direction. And you want to do that. Sell the officials on the call.
Doug Shows and Jim Burr were looking at each other, so they said, Zags basketball.
Good IQ play by Sacre.
Pargo couldn't get it to go over Page. Terrell Harris finds Page.
Good shot fake.
Brown underneath, soft touch.
Nice move by Anthony Brown. He was an afterthought last year because of a shoulder injury.
Brown missed the last 16 games last year with shoulder surgery. Golden shot no good, out of bounds. Oklahoma State ball.
Nice fish. Keaton Page, you can really shoot it, so you got to honor the pump fake. Watch that. He flies by him, Gray, and that opens up a situation inside for Anthony Brown. The other question you have if you're Gonzaga, if you're thinking about Gonzaga as an Elite 8 Final Four team, the defensive end has always been a little bit of a question mark because they're so good offensively. And then you have to ask yourself, if you need a big basket, who do you go to? Sometimes when you have 4 or 5 guys on the floor that can score, there's really nobody to take over.
Double dribble and a turnover, and the Zags, as per usual, they play a brutal non-conference schedule.
Of course, they've really gone to school on this through the years. And interestingly, as the non-conference schedule has gotten more difficult, the West Coast Conference has gotten more difficult. This year, San Diego, St. Mary's, Santa Clara building a program.
Zags have played a brutal non-conference schedule seemingly every year. I mean, out of conference as tough as anybody's, and that's something Mark Few believes in. Going to test his team. Heitfeld missing a 3.
But you can do it when you're in a league like the West Coast Conference, because you're not going to get tested all that much in conference.
Anderson has his shot blocked.
West Coast Conference pretty good, but it's not like the rigors of going through the Big 12 or the ACC or the Big East.
Let's go to Andy Katz. Andy?
Well, just picking up on your point, I mean, Gonzaga has really made a fine art of this at the, at their level, which they've now elevated to being an elite program, where they don't do one-way games anymore. They only do true home and homes or play neutral courts or in tournaments like this. And every year now they have become a coveted franchise, if you will, in tournaments just like this in Maui.
Ray hits that 3.
NIT and on and on. They're going to pick up quality games throughout the course of their conference. And as Fran said, St. Mary's now can become a quality win or not so bad a loss once they get into conference.
Eaton over Heitfeld. That was nicely done.
Eaton showing the ability to drive to the rim with either hand. That was well done. Good quickness and strength. Well, it's the Memphis philosophy, really. You know you're going to dominate your conference. You'll have a few tough games, but you can do whatever you want at a conference because of that reason.
Stays 3 in and out. Harris corrals it. Manello over Heitfeld, and he hits. Obi Manello, 11 points and 14 rebounds.
How about that dribble penetration, too? You've got 4 guys on the floor right now for Oklahoma State that can all beat you off the dribble.
Oklahoma State leading by a point. And that guy right there is doing it all. Puts it on the floor, soft touch. Cowboys lead. The night sky lights up at Epcot with illuminations, reflections of Earth, an incredible fireworks spectacular. Watch fire dance, fountains burst in the sky, and amazing fireworks synchronized to a dramatic musical score. Now here, Feast Week presented by Lowe's. Over 48 games covered on the ESPN family of networks, 7 on ESPN, 24 here on ESPN2. And, well, there's Judd Heathcote. He does not want to go 0-2, right?
No, he does not. The Spartans lost the opener, and of course he now lives in Spokane, a Gonzaga season ticket holder, and very close to the Gonzaga program. And we wish Judd well, health-wise. He battled this summer. I didn't get a chance to see him up at Mark Few's Coaches versus Cancer golf outing because he was under the weather, but glad to see him here.
Oh, Terrell Harris to the rim and the flush.
He's got a chance, Terrell, to have a breakout senior year. This is what makes Oklahoma State dangerous. We keep mentioning the feast or famine. They put the 4 guards on the floor, and every one of them can beat you off the dribble. When the threes are going, they're going to be really dangerous.
Austin Day has it knocked away, deflected, and Oklahoma State basketball.
This is sensational. Terrell Harris, who can shoot. Now, this is what I'm talking about. You must guard the dribbler. And the question I have, watch how soft Austin Day here is on that dribble penetration. Part of it, John, is because of the 4 guards, and he's not used to guarding a guy 6'4". But to me, Gonzaga's one Achilles heel to go very, very deep in the tournament is the ability to stop people.
Terrell Harris may not be another guy who's as perfect a fit for the system that Travis Ford wants to run. You know?
Absolutely right. And he had a junior year slump, but he's poised to have a breakout year because he's very versatile in his attack. Look at those pump fakes.
Kicks out. Keith Page.
That's pretty. That's pretty.
Nice rotation.
Nice move by Ollie.
Cowboys by 3. I feel like when he's in the game with Byron Eaton, he should be Keaton Page. Heitfeld up and under is fouled, and he'll go to the line. Here at the Milk House, Disney's Wide World of Sports Complex in Lake Buena Vista, the Old Spice Classic, part of Feast Week, presented by Lowe's, and number 10 team in the country, Gonzaga, taking on Oklahoma State. John Shambi, Fran Fraschilla, Andy Katz with you. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody, and talk about a back-and-forth affair. It has been like a seesaw. Heitfeld misses. That last foul was on Anthony Brown, his 4th. So they've got 4 on Brown and 4 on Ibrahima Thomas.
And Malcolm Kirkland, who has not played very much in the early going, only averaging 8 minutes a game, the sophomore junior college transfer, is going to get an opportunity to contribute now.
And again, the free throw struggles for Gonzaga. They're now 8 for 17. Goodson turned his head for a second. Ball on the deck. Heitfeld gathers it in.
Oh boy, can't do that.
Ira Brown, look at that rebound and one. The senior and junior college transfer. He is 6'4", 235, and rock solid.
I remember a year ago when Mark Few was raving about him. Never got untracked as a junior, but you see the explosiveness. And it's kind of interesting with all the high-level players Mark Few has started to be able to recruit to Gonzaga. Ira Brown is a lot like those guys that they built the program around in the late 90s.
Brown went to the line on a foul committed by Anderson, his fourth. And so Anderson will sit down. The deflection out of bounds, and Gonzaga basketball down a point. So 3 different Cowboy players with 4 fouls, 3 key players, and a 5-second violation.
If you're Travis Ford right now with the lead, you're going to try to milk as much time off the clock. But as soon as Gonzaga may take control of this game, John, I think you've got to rush those guys back in. It's going to be a tall order right now with this lineup to really manufacture some points, and it's going to be up to Eton and Terrell Harris to get the job done. Oh, nice cutting. Nice.
Harris finds Manello, shot blocked. Cargo comes away with it. Heitfeld. Bolden uses the ball fake, finds Brown, and the left-handed shot is good.
Perfect basketball. Anytime you drive baseline, you just put a big man head under the middle of the rim where he can locate himself.
Harris for 3. Got it! Terrell Harris, 14.
Well, you can thank Byron Eton for the great job of penetrating the lane. We've seen him do that all night long.
8 assists for Byron Eton.
Well, Kirkland commits that foul, but Byron Eton, we talked about him poised to have a great senior year. Take a look at this drive and dribble penetration, drawing white jerseys, and Terrell Harris, he's not affected by that three-point line. And, you know, and speaking of that, John, last year team shot about 35% from behind the arc. I know it's early, and a lot of people don't think it's a factor, but going into this Thanksgiving weekend, teams are shooting 33-4 from behind the arc, and that will be a big factor during the year.
Eton aggressively to the rim. And they got Pargo with that foul. And that's his first, team's third. Oklahoma State already with 18 fouls.
You know, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but Byron Eton can get into the lane on most anybody. But if you're Gonzaga right now, you have got to be able to stop the dribble. And if they don't do that over the course of the year, it could very well be another early exit from the NCAA tournament. This is a deep team with offensive firepower. But the key is, will you defend when you play the type of teams you need to play to advance deep into the tournament?
Last year they lost in the first round to Davidson. Stephen Curry dropped 30 on them in the second half, 40 in the game, and coughed up a pair of big leads in that one with the Zags. Long free throw, rebound pulled down by Downs, and Gonzaga down 2. Pargo handling.
Oh yeah, high-low. They're trying to establish Heitfeld.
Pargo goes to the goal, and a little scoop shot is good. 10 for Pargo.
Rubbed right off a Heitfeld screen, and then that strength and quickness to be able to get into the lane.
Page looking for some help and throws it away. Under 8 timeout. We're tied at 60. Jeremy Pargo and the Zags hanging in. Explosive to the goal. Tie game. It is picked up offensively. An exciting second half. Old Spice Classic part of Feast Week presented by Lowe's. Number 10 team of the country, Gonzaga, locked up in a 60-60 tie with Oklahoma State.
And you have to say this is a great confidence builder for Travis Ford's team. First time all year either team's been in a close game. Little 2-3 zone now by Oklahoma State.
Neither team shooting a high percentage, as we just showed you. Heitfeld with Kirkland on him.
A little backdoor action.
And the leader from Pargo will go. A dozen for Jeremy.
Good set play out of the timeout. They tried to get 2 straight back cuts. In the handoff and the strength of Pargo. Look at that shot fake.
Pargo right up on Eton. It'll stay Oklahoma State ball.
When you play Oklahoma State now over the course of the year, and you'll be able to go to school on this as you watch video, is you really have got to train yourself to stay on the ground on those pump fakes. Because once you can use a pump fake to lift a defender, you're now playing 5-on-4 versus the defense. And the nights that they make threes, they're going to be dangerous.
Page pulls it back out. And Eton a long 3 off the mark. And that one tipped and out to Page. And a fresh shot clock for Oklahoma State.
That's exactly right. Pull it out now. Make sure you get what you want.
Quickness of Eton, and they get downs with the fouls. We mentioned first time since 1990, no Sutton coaching at Oklahoma State. And there's some of the greats.
And I mentioned Circle Henry Iba because there's actually Maryland with a great win over Michigan State in the first game. Gary Williams, a point guard at Maryland for Bud Milliken, who was one of the outstanding Oklahoma A&M players for Mr. Iba. And so, you know, there are a lot of guys in that Mr. Iba family tree that are around the country, different branches. Anybody who's worked for Gary Williams, like Rick Barnes and Jimmy Patsos, myself, Billy Hahn, are part of that Iba tree by, I guess, by marriage, you'd say.
Big 3, Manello gives the Cowboys the lead.
Boy, Obi Manello is going to be a problem for teams because you got to guard him with a guard because he's playing that 4 spot.
Down speeds Heitfeld, who turns around and uses the glass. Soft touch, and Fran, that's really right there where he is most comfortable offensively.
He's got a great touch. He really does. And he can step away from the basket, but he knows that Thomas has 4, so Thomas is going to have no effect on contesting the shot. Had plenty of room to make that shot.
Pargo the other way. Ahead to Brown, lays it in and 1. He'll go to the line.
What a lift Ira Brown has given Mark Few off the bench tonight. 6'4", 235. Great look by Pargo. He sets up his pass. You know, a guy named John Stockton, who played at Gonzaga, was so good at counting numbers in his head on the break.
Now, Fran, you and I talked throughout the course of the year about college basketball, and I distinctly remember a year ago, you watched Gonzaga work out in August, and you called me up and you said Ira Brown could be a special player. What do you think has changed with him that it took over a year?
I think coming from junior college and being a guy that didn't play a lot of basketball till junior college, Andy, then I think the other thing is they have had so many highly recruited guys over the last few years, but Ira Brown brings them back to the mid and late 90s under Dan Monson and Mark Few, guys that were overlooked, under-recruited. play with a toughness like the Casey Calvarys and the Axel Dutches and the Matt Santangelos. And oftentimes, sometimes you get all this great talent. You need a blue-collar guy like Ira Brown.
Eaton has it knocked away. There's Brown. Wisely slows it up and now gives to Pargo. And that one knocked away from Pargo.
Tell you what, John, this is Ira Brown's best performance all around in his ZAG uniform.
And again, he's 26 years old, and as soon as you start talking to him, it comes across the maturity and the experience as a minor league baseball player. Playing professional baseball certainly, shaped him, and after his career ended, he went on to junior college to play hoops.
Well, you know what it is. Some of these guys have been highly recruited, and we know what that's all about, going through the recruiting process and having people kiss your fanny. I think you could say that. And Ira Brown's been on all those minor league bus trips.
Right.
Stopping at McDonald's.
Absolutely.
And sleeping on those buses. You did it as an announcer. And you get to appreciate the opportunity to play at a place like Gonzaga. And Mark Few says, we need you to be a spark. He's going to know his role.
Ira Brown's been a spark here. And right there, charged with the foul as he fouled Obi Manello right there on the floor. There's Mark Few and his resume.
He's not only done an unbelievable coaching job, but he and his wife Marcy have raised $3 million for cancer research. Coaches versus Cancer every year at the end of August in Spokane. Guys like Andy Katz and Jay Billis, Sean McDonough, Neil Everett from ESPN. A lot of college coaches pitch in. It's a great event.
That one tapped out of bounds. It'll stay Zags ball. Mark Few's group leading by 4. 9 straight NCAA appearances under Mark Few, 10 in a row overall. And how about the hand for Ira Brown, the 26-year-old senior? I mean, you don't get a lot of 6'4" power forwards at the Division I level, and usually not at the high Division I level.
Well, you do at the West Coast Conference level, which is why he's a throwback to the old days when the Zags really earned what they've built in the last decade.
Soft touch, Bolden used the up and under move. Largest lead for Gonzaga. It's a half dozen.
Now remember, Oklahoma State can shoot the 3.
And a rebound by Pargo, and Jeremy slows it down.
There's a good decision by the senior. 4 orange jerseys back.
The Cowboys have already lost some size. Ibrahima Thomas has already fouled out. Pargo to the glass, and 2 more for the senior. 15 for Jeremy Pargo. Gonzaga, largest lead of the game, on top by 8. And getting help from all over. Pargo and Matt Bolden using the ball fake and the head fake. Little up and under move.
Steve Bunin in the studio. Texas plows through Texas A&M 49-9. Mac Brown trying to prove to the voters that his team deserves to stay at number 2 in the BCS and try to get into that BCS title game. Sports Center on ESPN right now with the highlights and post-game reaction. Jeff McDermott and the Providence Friars prepping for a Thanksgiving nightcap against powerful Baylor. That tip-off in minutes on ESPN2. But first, Oklahoma State, one last shot at Gonzaga.
All right, Steve, thanks very much. Jeff McDermott, good-looking player. Fran, we saw him last year in Puerto Rico at the O'Reilly Auto Parts Puerto Rico tip-off.
One of the more underrated and versatile players in the Big East. Certainly a rebounder, great passer. Looks like a tight end.
Harris kick out. Manello uses the ball fake on Day and hits. Obi Manello has been outstanding. 16 points. 14 rebounds.
Now you can pressure, but you don't need to foul. There are plenty of possessions in this game, and remember, you've got the 3-point weapon if you're the Cowboys. You're only down literally 2 possessions, 2 threes. Oh, yeah, 4 fouls on Anderson. They're going to go to work on him.
Soft touch, Bolden, little fadeaway move right there.
Well, you know what? Andy Katz is exactly right. There's so many guys on this team that check their ego at the door, and yet there's so many guys that can get you 20.
Good hands, Manello, and Pargo fouling Anderson. Gonzaga leading this one by 8, trying to set up a date with Maryland. Back here at the Milk House, Lake Buena Vista, the Old Spice Classic, part of Feast Week, presented by Lowe's. And Andy Katz, this Gonzaga team gets scoring from all over 5 guys at double figures.
And Fran and I have seen this over the years. I mean, this Gonzaga program has really instilled selfless play among its players, and they're getting more and more stars. That's something they didn't used to do in recruiting. And this season in particular, Austin Day, Matt Bolden, Josh Heitfeld, Jeremy Pargo, all those guys came in highly touted. You could throw Micah Downs in there, and they've checked their egos at the door so far this season. Nice steal by Austin Day there to really make this team much more of a complete unit as they forge forward.
Yeah, I think the big thing for Gonzaga is offensively they can play with anybody, but as they tighten up their defense against the elite teams, I think that's going to be a big factor in whether they're going to be a factor in March. It's an elite program, John. They're going to win 25-plus games every year for the foreseeable future.
Kick out, Bolden wide open. That would have been a dagger. All right, Coach Fran, how about your all-time Gonzaga team?
Well, some of these guys are names not familiar to people. Frank Burgess was one of the, probably the best Zag until, and he's a federal judge now, I believe, up in Washington. But John Stockton, of course, playing in the early 80s, and Ronnie Turioff, Adam Morrison, of course, Dan Dickow. Throw Blake Stepp in there. Mentioned Casey Calvary earlier. But it's been a blue-collar program. They've melded the stars well. And Andy makes a great point, but they do have to get over that NCAA hump. They're much better as the underdog.
Jump hook by Heitfeld wouldn't fall. Up and a turnover. Eaton and Harris couldn't connect. Friday afternoon on ESPN, 2 college hoops games, 1 Eastern here at the Old Spice Classic for 12 Tennessee, number 16 Georgetown, then 3 Eastern Duquesne and Duke head-to-head, all part of Feast Week, presented by Lowe's. ESPN tomorrow.
Tennessee Georgetown is going to be a great matchup of contrasting styles. We saw that Tennessee pressure today.
Timeout called by Mark Few. What do you look for in that game? What are the things that John Thompson III has to worry about?
Definitely taking care of the basketball. They're a methodical team. They move the ball well. There's no question. But obviously, you know, the loss of Jonathan Wallace, the loss of Roy Hibbert. It's a team in transition, much like Tennessee, who lost, you know, Juwan Smith and Chris Lofton. And so what impresses me about Tennessee is their athleticism, John, and the fact that they never take a play off. And they've got young guys, and watching them today, my first thought process is, you know what, it's going to take them 6 weeks to get really good, but they are going to get really good. The same thing with Georgetown. Greg Monroe's a terrific talent. He's a very versatile big man. They're breaking in Chris Wright, who was injured a lot last year. Great matchup of contrasting styles, so turnovers are going to be a big thing for Georgetown.
Bruce Pearl talked about the inexperience and how the young guys on the defensive end, one of his concerns, not physically necessarily, but the ability to talk. And he talked about, I thought this was interesting, that when they were playing defense at the end of the court where the Tennessee bench was, he was happy with the communication because the coaches could help. At the other end, not as much.
No, exactly. You know what? Those freshmen like Scotty Hobson and Ronaldo Woods, they're going to grow up in the next 6 weeks. Right now, they have trouble guarding a chair, but they will get it because of the way Tennessee plays and practices every day.
Downs looking for some help and finds Pargo. Eaton almost knocked it away. Gonzaga leading by 8. As we close in on 90 seconds to go. Day, a 3. wouldn't go down. There's Downs, rebound and a putback. Micah Downs been kind of the unsung hero. 13 points and 11 boards for the senior from Kirkland, Washington. Fight for the rebound, and they got Pargo. And our Old Spice player of the game. How about the lift they got from their spark plug?
Well, and it's not often that a guy that scores 6 points and grabs 3 rebounds is the player of the game, but this game was in doubt until Ira Brown really gave them a lift off the bench. And as you mentioned, the 26-year-old senior from Conroe, Texas, undersized power forward.
Former minor league baseball player. There's another turnover. Ira Brown, our Old Spice player of the game, and really made his presence felt during that run in the second half. You know, we talked to Dave Pendergraft, the young man who graduated last year, Mr. Zag, and he was sort of the blue-collar heart and soul of the team for his time at Gonzaga. And Ira Brown really kind of takes on that mantle now, that toughness off the bench. His cell phone's going to blow up when all those family members back in Conroe text him and call him. Say, did you know you were the player of the game tonight? You needed to get to this basketball thing sooner. That minor league baseball career.
Boy, Matt Bolden. You know, you can just go down the list, but Matt Bolden, you know, is now probably Mr. Zag. You know. Does a little bit of everything. And the Zags go into a little zone.
Anderson gets that 3 at a timeout. 9-point game. Gonzaga 10 straight NCAA tournament appearances. What a job Mark Few has done, but it started the year before he took over as head coach, 1999, with a couple of epic wins, including this one.
Oh, it did. This was a game that propelled Gonzaga into the Elite Eight, and they took a Connecticut team that won the national title that year right to the wire. But Quentin Hall was on that team. I mentioned Casey Calvary. Of course, Dan Monson went on to go to the University of Minnesota, and it's a good reason why Mark Few, in my opinion, will stay at Gonzaga for quite a while, because he's got a great job relative to other coaches in college basketball at the elite level. He's got less pressure. He deals with probably generally a better overall quality of young man. They've got a league they can dominate, a fan base that loves the Zags, a brand new arena. And he makes a reasonably good living, and he can fly fish anytime he wants outside his backyard.
Good look. Pargo finds Downs. 2 more from Micah Downs, and that's 15.
Now you're just going to jack it, try to get back in it. But hey, give credit, John, to Oklahoma State now. They are going to beat some teams because of this style. But I mentioned foul trouble and injuries would be an issue throughout the course of the year. And foul trouble was probably their undoing tonight.
Clock winding down, Gonzaga by 11. And after a tightly contested first half, Gonzaga started to find its way offensively. Heitfeld gathers it in and knocks it down.
And Travis Ford is going to have no issue with his team's effort tonight, that's for sure.
Five different Zags in double figures here. And Gonzaga looks to take on Maryland. A foul right there. One more look at our bracket earlier today. It was Tennessee big over Siena, Georgetown and a squeaker over Wichita State. Maryland thumped Michigan State.
Generally a better overall quality of young man. They've got a league they can dominate, a fan base that loves the Zags, a brand new arena. And he makes a reasonably good living, and he can fly fish anytime he wants outside his backyard.
Good look. Pargo finds Downs. 2 more from Micah Downs, and that's 15.
Now you're just going to jacket, try to get back in it. But hey, give credit, John, to Oklahoma State now. They are going to beat some teams because of this style. But I mentioned foul trouble and injuries will be an issue throughout the course of the year. And foul trouble was probably their undoing tonight.
Clock winding down. Gonzaga by 11. And after a tightly contested first half, Gonzaga started to find its way offensively. Heitfeld gathers it in and knocks it down.
Well, Travis Ford is going to have no issue with his team's effort tonight, that's for sure.
Five different Zags in double figures here. And Gonzaga looks to take on Maryland. A foul right there. One more look at our bracket earlier today. It was Tennessee big over Siena, Georgetown and a squeaker over Wichita State. Maryland thumped Michigan State in the biggest surprise so far. And the Zags and the Terps will go head-to-head tomorrow at 5:30 Eastern.
You know what we've got? We went from a regional bracket today, an NCAA regional. Now we're in a Sweet 16 bracket tomorrow because that's the level of play that we saw here tonight from the winning teams. Arizona's going to come calling. You know that. He's a graduate of the University of Oregon where they don't need a coach. So I don't. But Ernie Kent at times in the past has been on the hot seat. And he's got a terrific group of freshmen. But Mark Few has a great job in a great part of the country. And Jimmy V used to say, don't mess with Happy.
Well, I'm sure Dan Monson could attest to that.
Absolutely. And Dan is one of Mark Few's closest friends. And now bouncing back at Long Beach State, where they just almost knocked off Wisconsin in Madison a couple Sundays ago.
Gonzaga wins it here, the final 83-71. For Fran Fraschilla and our entire ESPN crew, I'm John Shambi. Time now to head out to Anaheim, the 76 Classic. It's Providence taking on Baylor.